Over 30 Russian armored combat vehicles were obliterated in 48 hours across a single sector of Donetsk. A defeat so severe that even Allied defense experts classified it as one of the most asymmetrical tactical ambushes of this conflict. Intelligence feeds and battlefield footage show Ukrainian Leopard 2 and T-64 armor, integrated seamlessly with aerial scout assets, delivering precision strikes from concealed firing positions, hitting enemy targets, exactly where the hostile armor was blind. To me, each blast marked not just a lost asset, but definitive proof that cheap commercial tech can overmatch expensive platforms when tactical coordination is absolute. This engagement was small on maps, but massive in doctrine. It proved that drones now serve as the command brain of this theater, turning each vehicle into a targeted hunter rather than a blind block of steel. As an officer studying Donetsk, the core question extends beyond Ukraine's forward lines. As modern warfare entered an era where sensor grids decide who prevails before the first shell is fired. For their high command, the threat is scorched armor. If every advance is observed, mapped, and targeted from above, how can armor survive in environments where the sky itself has been weaponized by the adversary? Major hostilities erupted on the southern rim of Donetsk, where hostile forces poured in heavy mechanized assets to punch a clean breach through defensive lines and kick off their primary offensive thrust. Enemy commanders planned to smash past established defensive barriers, seize roads, and push directly toward critical logistics hubs, calculating that mass alone would shatter the defense. Our forward scouts detected the buildup. In defense, you dig in early, establishing a smart network of coordinated firepower and overhead eyes. Leopard 2 armor from the 33rd Brigade concealed themselves behind sparse tree lines. Their 120mm barrels cleared for action, while T-64 crews from the 47th took positions in defilade, priming their high. Explosive ordnance for close quarters engagement. Bradley fighting vehicles deployed forward. Next, warming up 25mm chain guns with guided missiles locked on distant targets. This armor did not operate in isolation. Reconnaissance drones patrolled above, feeding real-time telemetry directly to tactical command, forging a sensor network to detect hostile maneuvers 3 miles out. The adversary pushed advanced scouts first, probing with a dozen infantry transport vehicles, but our aerial assets caught them unprepared, transmitting precise targeting data in seconds. We initiated immediate fire missions, destroying their lead elements into twisted wreckage, forcing the remainder to scatter. When their heavy follow-on column entered exceeding 8 units, including T-80 armor and battle taxis, our ambush snapped shut. One Leopard crew held fire behind a ruined farmhouse. As the first enemy tank crossed the crest, we fired, and our round penetrated their turret, profile triggering secondary fuel explosions in a violent flash that illuminated the sector. Survivors abandoned their hulls only to face suppressive fire from adjacent Bradleys. Our flank guard T-64, concealed within a defile, acquired an armored transport attempting to bypass our left. 2 swift impacts, and the wreck rolled, blocking the route and inducing absolute panic in their convoy. Forward observers immediately requested cluster. Munitions from our artillery targeting exposed infantry in the open. Intelligence reports from the Kyiv Ministry confirmed the threat scale using surveillance from October 2025, indicating they deployed over 50 heavy armored vehicles this month. From lumbering MTLB logistics platforms to MT-12 anti-tank guns towed by trucks, losing nearly 20 vehicles in one day. Yet their tactical advance stalled abruptly just 500 yards from our tree line. Dense defensive minefields stretched ahead, seated weeks prior with heavy anti-tank fuses and pressure plates. They claimed 3 enemy vehicles in the opening minutes, tracks sheared, wheels shattered, and heavy engines stalled under fire. Our engineers had meticulously seeded the ground with TM-89 detonations each, our hurling shrapnel that shredded vehicle underbellies, forcing crews to abandon their assets. Our defensive objective remained absolutely clear: block that hostile armored column from penetrating the outer perimeter of Vunavaka. This deserted hub of 20,000 contains routes leading directly toward Kramnik and beyond. If the enemy breached this sector, they would sever logistics to 3 combat brigades, starving out forward positions and exposing a 10-mile vulnerability. Leopard gunners disciplined their fire for optimal engagement angles, letting drones pick the perfect tactical moment. A single Bradley crew maneuvered backward, using tactical smoke, then exposed themselves to strike a trailing T-72 from 1,800 yards with a wire-guided missile skimming low across the saturated ground. A 30-foot fireball erupted, and the column bunched up, presenting lucrative secondary targets. Barrage. Hostile drivers panicked, swerving wildly, some ditching in trenches, others reversing directly into friendly units as our net closed. Dismounted infantry deployed only to be pinned by suppressive fires from our Bradleys. Enemy RPGs fell short in the rain-soaked mud. Our integrated network turned a routine assault into a tactical bottleneck, proving that superior coordination and vigilant surveillance defeat brute force every time. As the enemy assault stalled, their push broke, leaving smoking wreckage as grim monuments to their failed offensive. Reconnaissance assets served as the tactical heart of our defensive fire control, launching from secure rear positions and transmitting exact telemetry through Secure Link 16 channels to establish lethal kill zones ahead of the hostile advance. These light aircraft climbed to 1,500, defeat optics scanning open fields in high resolution, while commanders back at our tactical command post monitored screens, tracking hostile combat vehicles the instant targets crossed our phase lines. In-fire coordinates reached our crews in under 5 seconds, painting target indicators around hostiles and computing firing solutions on our gunners. A Leopard crew hull down behind a berm acknowledged the alert. The lead, T-64, appeared at 1,900 meters, turret slewing as the commander ordered fire, and our loader chambered a fresh round. The barrel recoiled, the sabot streaking out, and impact ripped their hull open in a cascade of fire. 2 more. Shots followed rapidly, one going wide, but the second punching through the engine compartment and stopping them dead. Tactical feeds remained active, zooming in on the target to verify our kills and correct our fire coordinates. Another element with 2 T-64s hidden in a draw received coordinates for 3 clustered BMPs. Our first gunner fired a round that punched the lead vehicle's side armor. Fuel ignited immediately and flames spread to our targets as hostile crews scrambled. Our Bradley gunners joined the fight, their thermal optics locking on to signatures through the morning mist, guiding missiles toward distant silhouette. Every detonation registered on our live map, green markers rapidly replacing those red threats as our artillery adjusted. Stragglers. Our kill chain never paused. When enemy units deployed a Cornet launcher along the tree line, our drone's infrared camera caught the heat signature of the launch tube, immediately flashing alerts to our Leopards. Engines roared, tracks tore earth, and our armor slipped behind protective concrete rubble just as the threat streaked past exploding harmlessly against a birch tree. That tactical warning saved our crews, allowing them to swing barrels back toward the target. Our recon drones maintained overlapping orbits, handing off station as battery power dropped, keeping the airspace saturated with eyes. Our controllers prioritized high-value targets, focusing on command variants with specialized antennas, ensuring every round hit. Enemy drivers deployed smoke and drove erratically, but our drones adjusted altitude tracking every gap to maintain a clear feed. This persistent sensor-to-shooter loop shrank engagement times down to mere heartbeats, turning that open ground into a threat. We maintained absolute data dominance, and every automated update dictated our maneuvers across this highly contested battlefield. Russian anti-tank teams attempted to pivot the tactical balance using cornet and concurs, missiles launched from tree lines. Yet, most guidance packages drifted off course or slammed directly into the terrain, leaving our maneuvering armor unscathed and ready to strike back. Defenders in camouflaged fighting holes spotted the incoming target through thermal optics, but their tracking systems lagged to realign after the heavy shock of previous bombardments. One Cornet team near the pines locked onto a Bradley at 2,500 meters. The round fired its command wire, trailing as the gunner steered hard, but the projectile lost altitude and exploded against a log 300 meters short. Another team deploying a Conqueror's launcher targeted a Leopard hull peeking from the rubble. The projectile climbed high, then nosedived into soft earth, churning up mud instead of stale. We often see these precision-guided systems fail their objectives. Pentagon, 2023 data shows Russian cruise missile failure rates had spiked up to 60%, with systems failing to launch, crashing immediately after takeoff, or missing targets completely. Our mobile crews stayed ahead, using real-time telemetry piped from aerial reconnaissance combined with swift smoke, deployment, and aggressive evasion maneuvers to break threat tracking. A tank commander heard the threat signal in his headset, reacted, and the launchers fired canisters that bloomed smoke screens instantly. The vehicle pivoted sharply on its tracks, vanishing behind the haze just as a Cornet flashed through the empty space. Behind, Bradley crews executed identical tactics, retrograding rapidly under cover, while gunners kept weapon systems oriented outward. This tactical shift denied Russian operators the stable lock they required for wire-guided tracking. The Russian sensor-to-shooter chain dragged sluggishly. Forward spotters radioed coordinates. Command cleared the targets, and weapons finally fired, often minutes after targeted units had already repositioned. One Russian unit managed a clean launch from cover. The weapon tracked true for 1,000 meters until drone-directed smokescreens rose and the warhead detonated blindly against a concrete barrier. Data from the 47th Brigade reveals multiple Cornet and Concourse attempts in a single afternoon, with only 8 landing, within 50 meters of any hull, and just 2 causing minor track damage, which crews repaired by dawn. Tactical electronic warfare pods jammed control frequencies on several occasions, forcing missiles into wild spirals that crashed harmlessly into dirt. An aerial recon drone spotted a Cornet team deploying their launcher, dropping a small explosive payload directly onto the tube, cooking off the missile in a violent flash that destroyed the entire system. Enemy infantry tried to close the distance, on foot with rocket launchers, but open terrain left to them vulnerable to 25mm bursts that swept lines across the dirt. Their failure rates spiked further when rain slicked the launch rails, causing misfires or premature drops. Command posts in Kyiv noted that Russian anti-tank doctrine still relied on fixed positions driven by intense fear of minefields, whereas Ukrainian forces, they executed relentless relocation drills every 15 minutes. A single Leopard platoon evaded 4 separate guided missile salvos in under 1 hour by maneuvering through ruined farm structures, each maneuver guided by live drone aerial telemetry. My tactical analysis revealed a fatal delay. Russian crews required 45 seconds from target acquisition to missile launch, but Ukrainian armor shifted their bearing in half that window. Defensive smoke not only blinded optical tracking, but also degraded thermal seekers on advanced Cornet variants. This dynamic forced the enemy commanders to withdraw their anti-tank assets, fearing lethal counter-battery fire arriving before they could reload. The tactical calculus became brutal. Each miss squandered a $20,000 missile, immediately exposing the crew to fatal counterstrikes. Ukrainian crews exploited this, neutralizing enemy launchers using high-explosive fragmentation rounds that scattered surviving crews into the tree line. By twilight, depleted missile canisters littered the forest floor, grim testaments to a counteroffensive that never materialized. First-person view drones descended to deliver at the final strike. Once enemy armor sat, immobilized and burning, diving directly at rear engine grills and hatches to ensure complete destruction of the asset. These small operator-guided assets deploy from tactical rails just behind the forward line, electric motors whining, while operators in hardened bunkers steer them using control units linked to live optics. One crippled T-80 withdrew trailing smoke. One drone banked hard, striking the engine compartment with a massive blast, rupturing fuel lines, sending the armor careening into a ditch where it settled permanently. Another BMP, its turret frozen from prior strike's attempted withdrawal. 2 drones closed in tandem, one striking the driver's optics, while the second penetrated thin roof armor directly, detonating stored munitions in a chain of explosions that lifted the chassis off the earth. Telemetry from the 47th Brigade recorded absolute chaos. 2 FPV drones targeted a single T-90M already, missing its track. Operators coordinated via secure channels to assign vectors. These precision weapons struck the engine deck in rapid sequence. The crew popped hatches, fleeing into the tree line as secondary explosions detonated the main gun munitions. Every asset deployed a shaped charge, warhead no larger than a soda can, yet the cumulative effect reduced a $4.5 million asset in under 30 seconds. Economic reality defines this battlefield. Forces assemble these FPV assets for roughly $500 each, including frames, optics, and explosive payloads, while a T-90M rolls out at over $4 million, proving cheap. Swarms can dismantle advanced armor without risking a single combatant. Brigade records from October 2025 list 43, confirmed vehicle kills by FPV systems in the Donetsk pocket, with 28 categorized as total write-offs and 15 left immobilized for subsequent recovery. Officers define these assets as unmanned finishers, securing victories from an NET's extreme standoff range. Friendly crews remain buttoned down, holding key defensive sectors securely while unmanned systems clear the threat. A Bradley crew monitored combat feeds as our FPV hunted a fleeing enemy crew across 200 yards of open ground, diving into a shallow trench, neutralizing the squad before they could regroup. fiber optic cables now replace radio links on our new models, making them immune to electronic warfare and allowing precision strikes even under heavy electronic noise. Operators train on simulators for 2 weeks, then fly combat missions from shipping. Containers turn command posts. Each shift deploys up to 12 drones before battery swaps. The 47th fields over 200 active platforms rotating fresh batches daily from 3D print shops nearby. Enemy forces tried countermeasures, cages over turrets, shotgun teams on rooftops, but our drones fly low and fast, skimming grass at 60 miles per hour too. Quick for manual aim. One T-72 crew draped camo mesh, yet drones, slipped underneath one, detonating against the belly plate, flipping the 46-ton beast onto its side. My troops mark wrecks with orange tape, so follow-on strikes avoid wasted. Sorties maximizing every single launch. The psychological impact is devastating. Intercepted radio chatter reveals enemy crews refusing to advance, fearing those damn kamikaze bees that hunt the wounded. We commanders now pair drone teams with artillery spotters authorizing strikes only after drones confirm no friendlies nearby. One operator in the 82nd Brigade recorded 4 kills in one afternoon, guiding drones through broken windows of abandoned farms to hit armored vehicles. This cost efficiency ratio is 1 to 8,500 versus 4 million, turning defense budgets into lethal math. As smoke cleared over the objective, across this steel graveyard the truth rings. Combat no longer ends with massive cannon fire from main guns, but with the quiet hum of cheap plastic props sealing the fate of Giant. Ukrainian forces recovered dozens of enemy armored carriers left almost fully intact, towing them back to rear depots, pressing the captured armor back into active service to reinforce their active lines. Forward maintenance crews stripped away hostile markings, welding on new reactive armor bricks, replacing radios with NATO units. Systems turning former threat vehicles into frontline combat assets. A convoy of 3 armored carriers, wheeled transports rolled out of a hidden workshop near Peak Row just 72 hours after recovery. Crews from the 82nd Brigade had found them abandoned with engines still warm, 2 keys dangling with only minor shrapnel, dents from nearby explosions. Tactical drone pilots had neutralized the enemy crews with precise strikes on vision ports, forcing the survivors to flee on foot into the dark. Troops slapped friendly blue and yellow tape across the holes loaded 30mm ammo, belts sending the salvaged armor straight back into the fight against their former owners. The 82nd alone registered 3 fully operational troop carriers added to its roster in October 2025, each now transporting infantry squads to hotspots faster than foot marches ever could. Tactical reports list 27 Russian armored transports and fighting vehicles captured across Donetsk since the start of the month, with 19 restored to duty after expedient repairs. Welders patched hull breaches in under 6 hours. Field technicians rewired control panels while our gunners test-fired main cannons on nearby ranges before dawn patrols. This rapid cycle stretched tactical reserves without waiting for fresh hardware from overseas. Captured T-62 tanks received similar treatment. Fuel tanks, topped tracks tensioned, and turrets traversed to verify 115mm cannons cycled smoothly. This psychological blow hit enemy units hard. Our radio intercepts showed crews hesitating to advance, fearing their own armor would soon fire back under our colors. Enemy command scrambled to issue the stricter withdrawal protocols, but the panic spread. Our psychological ops broadcast footage of captured tanks rolling past burning wrecks, further eroding trust. In their chain of command, every salvaged hull denies the enemy a platform, while giving our forces extra firepower at zero cost. Recovery teams operate under drone cover, moving at dusk with heavy flatbeds and winches to drag hulls clear of minefields. A night extraction near Volnovakha secured 4 BMP-3s instantly. Engineers swapped shattered optics with depot spares and had them operational by dawn. Operational range improved too. Enemy diesel siphoned from abandoned tanks fed our engines for weeks. The 47th Brigade fields a mixed platoon: 2 Leopards, 1 T-64, and 3 captured transports, creating agile strike groups that disrupt hostile targeting. Our staff officers calculate that every salvaging a single carrier saves $1.2 million in replacement costs, keeping 12 critical combat troops operational on the front lines. Enemy logistics officers face sheer chaos. Their supply columns hesitate to advance. Knowing discarded hardware directly reinforces our position. Comms intercepts show desperate orders to scuttle assets before retreating, but battlefield panic frequently leaves demolition charges untouched. Our combat engineers defuse the traps in minutes, quickly recovering the high-value assets. This logistics failure disrupts their high command's strategy. Dwindling armor pools mean depleted reserves for subsequent offensive operations. The Ukrainian maintenance pipeline rebuilds 10 armored platforms weekly, deploying forward repair crews right behind the vanguard. Frontline troops call this salvaged fleet. Frankenstein's armor, a dark tactical joke that belies their pride in outmaneuvering a massive force. Strategic intelligence assessments ring true across the entire theater. Superior network integration and rapid tactical adaptation convert hostile attrition into immediate force multiplication, shifting momentum without cost overhead. With winter approaching, each recovered hull serves as a defensive bastion and a tactical spearhead for the spring offensive. The Donetsk engagement fundamentally rewrote modern doctrine. Armor and unmanned systems now act as a single network, directing precision strikes before the first round even leaves the chamber. The adversary suffered catastrophic armor losses within hours, but the strategic damage runs deeper. They have lost superiority over the electronic spectrum, helplessly watching their assets neutralized, while Ukrainian command orchestrates operations from remote positions. You and I know this engagement proves the conflict is about speed. Detect earlier, engage quicker, allocate resources efficiently, and secure the objective. So if Ukraine has weaponized 500 drones into the 21st century's deadliest asset, how will Moscow counter artificial intelligence? Drone swarms, total electronic blackouts, or a new tactical doctrine? File your assessment below. Who dominates the battle space? The brute kinetic mass or the force with total reconnaissance? Acknowledge this briefing, alert your unit, and enlist with military force for the next tactical update.